right, everything's a little bit later today. I guess we got just a little bit more extra news because of that hurricane that isn't happening in our neighborhood anyway. Caroline Baldwin is here. We're going to talk about gardens. It looks like a beautiful day to be out there in the garden.
Sure does.
And if you'd like to be part of the show, we would love to have you. The number is 622-9622, and it doesn't have to be a question. You can just call and say howdy.
That's it.
Howdy. How you doing?
Howdy.
You look good. I like that shirt. Nice looking.
It's all faded. How can it?
That's faded?
It's faded everywhere that my vest doesn't cover.
Oh, I can
the
see it. Yeah,
and
but
the sleeves. Red fade. So it's kind of funny.
It looks like a gradient design, though.
It does kind of.
It's gradient. Yeah.
But I guess you guys stalled out on the news and just kind of like the hurricane took a little longer to get finished.
Yeah, really. Yeah, we're following.
Follow. Everybody's following the path of Dorian. I couldn't get out of work on time yesterday.
Non-path.
And that's the whole thing.
Yeah. But the good news is it shifted to the east.
Good news is, God bless, so far it's shifted off to the east. Doesn't look like we're going to get anything. Yeah. But until it's up and gone, who knows, really. But
right.
Thoughts and prayers out to those who were on the Bahama Islands, and long recovery ahead for them. Once it finally gets fully passed, I can't imagine, here the devastation that would have occurred, in Florida, and a bigger, our peninsula is much larger, I think, than
the storm?
Some of the Bahamas.
Than the Bahamas.
Than some of those islands, that are.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And
absolutely.
so you figure how much devastation we would have had as compared to what they're going through. So prayers for them, and
And it's important to note that the signal that you're talking on right now reaches some parts of this state that actually have tropical storm warnings in effect.
Well, there's actually part of Lake County. I mean, the northern
Eastern
Lake
part
County
of
is
Marion. Yep.
Right. So it is. I mean, we can still, and it'll be overnight. We can still get some.
It's interesting how we're kind of like right on that
weather.
line.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like, really, you cut the county in half, or something, or into. I guess 2/3 of us aren't under anything,
Something
and
like that, yeah.
1/3 is. But just this is a little bit of time. We can talk about something other than the hurricane. We can talk about the hurricane too, but also don't be complacent. You bought supplies. Your more perishable stuff, of course, consume. But don't forget, hurricane season's not over.
Right.
Not till the end of November. And there are, one storm, I guess, popped up and petered out, and nobody ever noticed it, while this stuff with Dorian. There's other storms out there, actually, off the coast of Africa right now.
I think there's one in the Gulf, too,
there's
but
one
it's
in
heading
the Gulf,
west.
One I'd seen had been off the Yucatan. Let's not get complacent. You bought 15 cases of bottled water.
Correct.
Stack it up in the corner of the bedroom. It'll keep until end of November. Then use it. And that's how you stock your preparation. You had it from the 1st of June. We all know hurricane season starts the 1st of June.
Right.
There is no reason for panic and the rest of it, or the concern is somebody going to be price gouging. We all know in Florida, I didn't see any of it. Maybe many.
Not this time.
I saw one posting on Facebook, and actually the price I saw made me think that store was not even open.
Oh, really?
Well, if anybody noticed when the Wawas were opening and they got their pumps and their digital things, that their gas prices, though they had no fuel, was like $4.99 a gallon. We don't have any. So, of course, you're not going to try to stop. You might see the sign, but go, I'm not stopping there. So it might be that was why it was. So,
are you ready for the phones? Yep.
Sure.
Good morning. You're on with Caroline.
Yes, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
I'm watching television for almost 2 days straight, other than with your WOC on the background. But anyway, they were showing the devastation in the Bahamas and that, and it almost looks like tornado damage, where all the trees, you see that every tree, there's not a leaf left on a tree. Are those trees going to be able to come back, or are they considered like more or less dead?
More than likely they'll. You know what? It's high winds, and that if they're still standing and the rest of it, there's a chance they'll come back. You figure they're tropical trees. They're sort of they're more than likely native trees, unlike a lot of trees here in Central Florida and other places, even up the coast. So that there's a good chance that they're just going to be fine. It just blew all the leaves off of them. Now, if they were snapped off, no, obviously that's not going to be a healthy tree. But there's a good chance they'll come back. It's just probably more the flooding that's going to be the danger to a lot of the trees and things like that. That the root system just got suffocated because of lack of oxygen because they're underwater.
It kind of reminded me, back up north. With a hurricane, or excuse me, with tornadoes, usually the area that's hit with a tornado, the trees that are left standing are totally bare. And I can't ever remember if those trees were considered, cut down, or if they ever came back with leaves. But this devastation in the Bahamas kind of remind me of that. And it'd be a shame if those trees were dead, because the whole landscape was it was barren. It was unbelievable,
Yeah, it is quite devastating. But, again, like you say, a tornado is going to snap the tree off. The high winds and things like that just blow them off, there's a good chance those trees are going to be just fine. On that, and you're right. It would be devastating because the whole area was destroyed. Pretty much. The storm hasn't left. It's just battering it with those excessive winds, and it'll just take every leaf off of a tree. But I'm going to say if they haven't gotten waterlogged, like I said, the root systems, that those trees have, I'd say, a good 50-50 chance of survival. Whether or not they'll try to keep them, I don't know. Only for the sake of cleanup, might be easier just to bulldoze everything in certain areas and clear it off and start anew.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're looking across the landscape down there, or anywhere where a hurricane hits. God made the palm trees in a special way that they can withstand hurricanes like that, and they're sticking up there. They're bending over during the storm, but they're sticking up there high and proud, and they got all their leaves on, more or less, or branches on, and they're looking pretty good.
Right. Well, if you know that the native trees are the ones that can withstand the weather conditions where they're grown. If you were to take a tropical tree further north, and cold weather is going to knock it out. For us, we need trees that can handle the higher winds and things like that when you have tropical weather that comes through. So it's generally your more native trees are your ones that are going to be hurricane resistant. And there's actually, the University of Florida has a list of trees for our area that are hurricane resistant. So if somebody's starting with a blank slate for a landscape, or that they're building a new home, I would get that list and think about putting those trees in for my landscape versus just going, oh, I really like this tree. It might not be the best tree suited for our climate, for our area.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much, and stay safe for another couple of days, I guess.
Yeah, that and throughout the hurricane season, be vigilant.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling.
Thank you. The phone number, if you want to call in, as Hugh just did, is 622-9622. We'd love hearing from you.
Yeah, that's what makes the show. And I'm going to try to look up that list while we're messing around. And we all know that I don't multitask with the computer too well. So if I stumble and stutter, I'll get it on the bottom of the hour break or something like that. But the University of Florida does have a list on hurricane resistant trees. And like I said, if it were me, if I were planting something, or if, say, I lost a tree to some other reason, say you had queen palms removed because they're not cold hardy, I'd be looking at those kind of trees, because a lot of them are shade trees.
Right,
they're gonna provide color and interest to your landscape, as well as being more durable and for tropical weather. So think on it that way.
Would a tree be more durable in certain locations? Like, would Ocala have a better, easier to grip soil than, let's say, something closer to the sandy area?
Not necessarily.
We're just as sandy, aren't we?
Because we're pretty much just as sandy. I guess out in the forest you see some different trees. It's, again, when you're looking at native plants, and not necessarily the hurricane resistant, but native plants, you're looking at something coastal. Has to be a plant that can tolerate salt.
Right.
Where here inland we don't have that issue. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, even if there's a hurricane coming through, the salt air for us is not going to be anything as compared to what's going to happen, 2 miles from the beach. Those have to be salt tolerant plants all the time. So that's more what you're looking for on that. And there's certain plants, just because the coastal areas have a tendency to be a little bit warmer in the wintertime just because of the water, that some of those plants might not be the best plants for us here for outdoor plants because of temperatures. You get that if you ever actually look at the temperature charts for, that it's kind of weird how it comes in and out, where your 9s come up into the 8s on the coastal areas only because of the water.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Keeping it a little bit warmer. And then anybody who's lived in this area any length of time knows there's about, I think it's a 7-mile, I think somebody told me it's a 7-mile strip that's colder. And it runs, I forget where it's at now. I know somebody knows where it's at, but it's not on Lake Weir, but it's like somewhere, but it's it's a little further south,
really?
Just a smidge south. But it's like a 7-mile long band it's got to be something to do with the topography, the way that the way the lands lay, and if it's just a dip in there and the cold air just settles in there or what. But it's a strange, and that's why we say where you live is a microclimate. It's something you have growing in one place might not grow well at your best friend's house 4 blocks off.
Right.
Because what your neighbors have planted around them, or do you live in a subdivision and they don't, or vice versa. I had a friend who lived out here off of 200 on the corridor out here, and her yard every winter, she had like the same kind of plants all her neighbors had, but everything in her yard would freeze first.
Isn't that funny?
Where we expect our first frost on like the 15th of November, her stuff would freeze with that first questionable weather everywhere else on, say, the 10th.
Isn't that weird?
And it was. We always used to tease her and say she was, on top of an Indian burial ground, and they just go.
Wow.
At her kind of thing. So, but who knows?
And nobody really ever tests it, huh?
I mean, it's just one of those things.
Something you observe.
She'd walk around the neighborhood and say, her such and such a plant was frozen, but her next door neighbor who had the same plant, theirs is fine. Facing the same direction even.
Do you know what I don't understand?
What's that?
Why does Florida have a reputation for people saying or doing goofy things? I mean, don't all states have that? And the reason, what has to do with what you're talking about? There was a guy in the news.
They call him Florida Man or whatever.
Right. Did you see the one who was in the news because he said we need to be dropping ice into the water to stop the hurricane?
I think we gather I think we just gather an eclectic group of people from around the country. They're not necessarily Floridians that say this goofy stuff or do the goofy things. I don't know. I think it just makes the news. But when you have crazy stuff that'll happen on the beach.
I wonder how that happened.
It's just, we do have quite a few different weird, crazy things. But you know what? Probably if you're living over on the west coast of the United States, you probably got something weird over there, too.
Yeah, maybe.
Or if you're in Texas.
We just notice it because we live here.
Right, or if you're in Texas. But, I mean, many times it makes the national news, too.
I know.
We just have some goofy. We
had one this morning from... it was the L.A. Times, of all places. I mean, pretty much as far as you can get. And it was talking about Casadega, that little city near here where you can, see a psychic. I don't know. I can't remember what the gist of the story was, but yeah.
There it is. But
they made national news this morning.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, who knows?
Yeah, it's probably they predicted that the storm wasn't coming. I don't know. I think there was one that had the psychic thing and had a board on their windows.
Oh, really?
That was one I did see on Facebook. So, that's
right.
So, could have been one of those kind of things. I did find, according to the UFL EDU, let's see if I can bring up trees that can withstand hurricanes. And is this a PDF? No, it's just it's under the gardening solutions. ifas.ufl.edu, but I just did a search of hurricane resistant and trees came up.
Oh, really?
As it said, windows, doors, garage doors, and trees. There you go. Click on it. So we'll go through part of that list here throughout the morning, just to see if we've got. There are different publications. Trees and hurricanes is one of them. See if it's given us. I want a list. Is all I want. Just give me a spreadsheet kind of thing. Some of the trees that are least wind resistant are sandpine, Chinese elm, water oak, and laurel oak. So, and we have water oaks, the laurel oaks, which are some of the ones that they actually consider trash oaks.
Trash oaks. Oh my gosh.
They're the ones who rot
They're going to get
out.
a complex.
They are. But they're the ones, you'll see this tree standing there, and actually the center of it is rotted out. And,
that'll fall over easy, right?
I mean, they'll have green leaves, but the center of that tree is gone. And you don't always know it if the bad side doesn't face an area where you walk often. So I'm going to try to find the good list, the list of the good trees on here. Trees and hurricanes. Let me see if that gets us a publication.
See what we have, yeah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while Carol Ann is looking that up, if you'd like to call into the show, we would invite you to do that now. The number is 622-9622. Carol Ann does this each Tuesday from 9 till 10. And again, we have a full, only 22 minutes after, 23. So you got plenty of time to have a conversation with Carol Ann about your lawn, your garden.
All kinds of stuff.
Whatever you need to know.
And at the bottom of the hour, we have prizes.
We do.
We have all kinds of prizes. We have tickets to Ocala Civic Theater for Matilda the musical.
Oh, really? You got those?
We have. Yeah, we got a couple pairs of those to give away today.
That little girl was cute.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the girl playing Matilda.
Yeah. So we got some tickets for those, and we also have Bob Wine's Community Gardens and Nursery. $20 gift certificates, as well as lunch from Freddy's. Everybody likes Freddy's, don't they?
Everybody likes Freddy's.
I think everybody likes Freddy's. I mean, hey, they.
You ever posed with Freddy in there?
No, I have not posed with.
No, you
Freddy.
never posed with him.
No. Dude needs a little dental work.
Does he really?
I mean, it looks like that picture. It's like, whoa, dude. But yeah, so we got some of those to give away at the bottom of the hour too. And I am still trying to find I just want a list, and I have seen the list of trees. But I said some of those other ones, when you're looking at a lot, and you see, ooh, look at all these pretty oak trees. Many of those oak trees might be water oaks and the other that you might actually be more wanting to remove, instead of going, well, let's keep these trees and these trees. Sometimes you're better clearing and replanting. Just also because the damage that happens because of equipment that comes in and drives over the root system of these, or as they're excavating soil in order to level the property, or they're adding soil to level the property, and you actually change the grade around those trees or over those root systems, that can do damage. And then you may not see this problem for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We get a bad storm, crash goes your tree, or your trees begin to decline. And somewhere to see where that actually happened was the parking lot that was built next to the livestock pavilion. The county, I believe it was the county, insisted that the pre-existing trees were left in those areas. And Mr. Holmes, the extension director, had said, no, let's just take everything out and replant.
Right.
Those trees are not going to be healthy trees. They've been here, just problems with the change and everything. And he was correct. Those trees were removed over time and new trees planted. So even though we hate the thought of just going, clear it all off, everybody, panic, you don't want to do that. Yeah, it's probably the best thing in the long run. When you think about long term.
I have whenever you ask a money question, it's always awkward. So I'll just give you that as just a warning.
Okay,
I got a money question.
Okay.
But there was a story this morning about a 55-year-old man in Ocoee who was cutting the limbs off of his tree because he thought they were going to fall on his house from the storm. And anyway, he fell down and died.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, maybe he couldn't afford to have it done by a professional. So that's the money question. How much does it cost?
It can be expensive.
Yeah,
it can be quite expensive. But I mean, it's not, if you are not And no, we don't know who he is. I'm not sure. Prayers for his family.
Right.
That we don't know what his skill level was, but looking at that one tree, I'm going, yeah, somebody wasn't real skilled when they cut on that tree, because I was seeing big, ugly, it wasn't cut back to the shoulder where it was supposed to be on some of these massive limbs. But no, I mean, you should at least have a helper. Tree climbers, professional tree climbers climb without a ladder. So it was kind of silly, the one comment from, I don't know if he was one of the fire department or whomever that was, tree cutters climb without ladders. They go right up a tree, they roped off and things like, but they're roped off.
Yeah.
And yes, they will put their saws up with a rope. So they're not necessarily climbing, holding the chainsaw, but that's coming up with them. And it looked like that chainsaw was roped off. So it's not like he fell with the chainsaw and he fell on his head, I think, or hit his head.
Oh, is that right?
Is what
But I was just trying to think, why didn't he just call somebody?
It can be very expensive, but also most of the municipalities told you, do not prune trees because we can't haul them off right now. All that collection was not going to be done until after the storm went through, if it was. So, you wanted to, not have more debris to add to it, because it could clog storm sewers or become projectiles.
It was just sad.
It is.
The other guy who died, he had a heart attack, so that was probably unavoidable. But the guy falling out of the tree.
That's,
And you have a phone call. Good morning. You're on the air with Carol Ann.
Hi guys, Hugh again, real quick. I just experienced having some trees trimmed by me here not long back, and the best thing is check prices. There's a big difference between one tree trimmer and another one, and of course the big thing is you want to make sure they're licensed, but especially make sure they're insured in case something happens that they get injured and you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
But other than that, though, look around for price. There's a lot of tree trimmers around here, and of course the best time to have a tree trim is not when there's a hurricane threatening you, but in the time of the year when there's not much work for these guys, and you'll be surprised how inexpensive some of them can be.
Yes, and it does depend on what you're going to get done, and some may even be able to work with you. I know there's a couple out there, or I'm pretty sure there's a couple out there that take credit card. So it will allow you to pay for it over time. Put you some money aside if you can into that fund. Like he just said, there's times a year where there's not necessarily a whole lot of work for them. Look at your trees, have it done then. That it's right. Not during the time of an emergency do you want to do that.
Yeah, speaking of hurricanes and storms and stuff, it's always the trees that cause the problem. Whenever you get a big wind event, it's a tree that fell on a house or fell on a car or whatever, and usually the building made it through pretty well. So it's important to keep your trees trimmed down all the time. I mean, don't wait for a hurricane to start thinking about it. But like you say, do it when these guys are looking for work and the prices are way down. That's
right. And I mean, you don't have to prune everything to the inch of its life, because that actually will shorten the life of the tree and shorten its. But there's healthy ways of pruning, and getting estimates, making sure that it's the right. You got the right company coming out to do the job correctly, that they're not in a hurry because it is a storm coming, that they're trying to get as much done because they've got back to back and they're just slam busy. But there's a lot of them. Black gum, I don't know if gumbo limbo is too much up here. Bald cypress does grow up here. Spruce pine, the swamp chestnut oak is a good tree. Sycamores are good. Hollies are good. Sweet gum, southern magnolias, live oaks, many of the palms. These are all resistant to hurricanes. Not perfect, but resistant.
That's good to know, yeah. All right, we do have some prizes before we take the break. What are the prizes?
We got prizes. We got tickets to Live on Stage, Matilda the Musical. We've got Baldwin's Community Gardens and Nursery gift certificates, as well as lunch to Freddy's.
All right, well, call right now. Let's see, if we come back out of the break and the phone is still ringing, that means we have other winners.
Right.
But we'll try to answer as many winners as we can right now. We'll take a break. 622-9622 if you'd like to get one of these prize packages. Yeah. They look good. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Here is your 1-minute news brief. Hurricane Dorian is now dominating the headlines, but most of Florida has been spared the wrath of one of the largest storms of the Atlantic. Marion County is expected to experience tropical force winds in the eastern portion of the county and comparatively mild conditions in the western portion of the county. Coastal residents in harm's way of the storm have already chosen Ocala as a shelter while Dorian passes. All schools in the county have been closed and will serve as shelters. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods and Marion County Commissioner Michelle Stone announced that school buses will not be out on the streets due to the possibility of 35-mile-per-hour plus winds in the eastern portion of the county. Their announcement specified which schools would serve as shelters. Government offices are open today. The Paddock Mall is closed. Sign up for emergency alerts at alertmarion.com, and don't forget to check the WOCA Facebook page at facebook.com/newstalk.woca.
Hurricane warnings are in effect across the region. Tuesday and Tuesday night will feature the outer rain bands from Hurricane Dorian grazing the area and bringing strong gusty winds and some bands of heavy rain to the area that can lead to flooding. The high on Tuesday between 82 and 86. The low Tuesday night 73 to 77. Wednesday remaining mostly cloudy and windy with some showers and a thunderstorm. The high 82 to 86. Sunshine returns Thursday. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Here's a Hurricane Dorian update from the source WOCA. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is in Jensen Beach. He says Floridians have had enough.
This has been, for some of them, a very frustrating storm because they were told several days ago this was supposed to cut through Florida. Then the path changed. It's supposed to go to the north and east. Some of them breathed a sigh of relief. Then there was some concern as it started to go over the Bahamas. Could it wobble westward?
The Category 3 storm is still stalled over the Grand Bahama Island. With the sun coming up, a better picture of the damage in the Bahamas is beginning to surface. Senator Rick Scott says Dorian will still get awfully close and fears the forecast track could still shift.
You know, that cone of uncertainty, 2/3 of the time it's outside that. It could be east, it could be west. And make sure you don't wait to where you can't get out.
Scott also says with all the talk about how powerful Dorian's winds are, it's storm surge that's the big killer. And Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez says the evacuation from coastal areas was intentionally staggered, which is why it has been largely problem-free.
So as to not create mass buildup in traffic and congestion along those state roads, the governor suspended tolls along all those evacuation routes. And so what we've seen has been a consistent, very slow, steady. There has not been any concerns as it relates to traffic buildup.
The Lieutenant Governor says Floridians should know assets from power crews to search and rescue teams have been pre-positioned to move in quickly once the storm passes. She calls it an unparalleled level of coordination among federal, state, and local officials. And Miami-Dade County is taking action to help those in the Bahamas. County officials announced yesterday they'll be spearheading relief efforts for those hit hard by the storm's devastating strength. And that is a Hurricane Dorian update from the source WOCA.
Hi, I'm Casey DeSantis. The governor and I are praying for our state. If authorities tell you to evacuate, please take those orders seriously. If you live in a coastal area, plan your evacuation now so you and your family can get out safely. Take essential items, including prescription drugs, medical supplies, and have a plan for your pet. Please pay attention to this storm. Follow FL CERT on Twitter and monitor local news updates. Florida is our home. It is hard to leave, but your safety comes first.
Thank you, Mrs. DeSantis. Real quickly, there is a tropical storm warning in effect for eastern Marion County. The line is kind of weird, but anyway, if you're in eastern Marion County, there's a tropical storm warning. The word warning means it's more imminent or impending. What's the word I'm looking for? It's going to happen.
To be expected, I guess, is, within, what is it, within the next 24 to 36 hours?
Well,
kind of
there's your question,
but of course, because the storm hasn't gone anywhere, but they're still predicting that overnight tonight is when we will be experiencing any of our most severe weather overnight tonight into Wednesday. And I believe, easing off come Thursday, but I'm not for sure because I don't know whether or not Dorian has decided to move anywhere. He's just hanging out there.
Is Dorian a male name?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So
See, I
yeah,
kept calling
didn't ask for directions. It's just hanging out.
That's what it is.
Yeah, didn't ask directions. Just hanging out.
wonder.
Doesn't know which way to go and making a mess and not cleaning up after himself. That's the whole thing.
Oh, there's the most current picture,
and
Carolyn.
it's a huge storm. I mean, thank God it's not coming ashore. That it's not coming ashore here, and that it does. If it follows what they're saying, it's going to miss the U.S. pretty much completely. Well, they got it touching up there in South Carolina, but that's like that outer cone of uncertainty kind of thing.
Uncertainty. Yeah.
So it may just go right out to sea. I mean, well. Yeah, a little bit way up there, but let's hope, it just blows through 2 o'clock. What's that, 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon?
It's 5 a.m. tomorrow on our doorstep, I guess.
Right.
So, yeah, overnight tonight we might see the worst of it.
So we may sleep through it unless you're a light sleeper and you hear the wind kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, let's hope we're all blessed and hope that it finally leaves the Bahamas area and gives those folks a chance to...
And like you said at the opening, there is another one off the coast of Africa.
Yeah, and we have all the way through the end of November. The peak of hurricane season is not until next week. That is actually this time next week. Is that not when Irma came through 2 years ago?
Exactly.
Because I was on vacation for that week and was without power for that week.
Yeah,
I was kind of glad. I mean, it was kind of a pain that I was, kind of stuck at the house. I wasn't going to go anywhere I didn't need to go to, only for the sake that, don't be on the roads if you don't need to be. And without power, at least I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to figure out how to shower and the rest of it. I'm, and I missed the cleanup at the store. But again, the stores are all open. Places have gas, so everybody's okay. Garden center's open, though we have to finish buttoning hours up just because that's what we're told to do.
Yeah.
Ours is pretty much done.
The mall's closed today. Did you know that?
No, I did not know it was closed. Yeah. And the worst of our stuff will be tomorrow or overnight tonight
I would
and
think
then tomorrow.
So, yeah.
And it sounds like it would be that, well, like one of my managers was saying, I think some of our thunderstorms that we get regularly in the summer might be worse than what we're going to get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it just might be a little more sustained on the winds versus, where we get the 20 or 30 minute huge thunderstorm that blows on by.
Mm-hmm.
It may last a little longer kind of thing, if anything. So, just, my plants are on the porch. I didn't bring them in, so they should be
I just
fine.
don't want my apple tree to break.
No, it won't. It's little. It's little and whippy. And that's something else. I was talking to some customers, all concerned that they have bottle brush trees. The bottle brush plant is more common a shrub, a very large shrub, unless it has been pruned up into a single trunk. That's what makes it a tree. And that's generally based upon how it was pruned. Well, when you buy these things and they got little tiny 2-inch caliper trunks and this nice big full head, it's very top heavy, kind of like a bobblehead in a regular store. Well, but if you hold that bobblehead still and you thump his head gets there and rocking real hard and might break.
Yeah.
Well, when you're staking one of those because you're concerned about it, that stake has to come all the way through the top of that tree and be able to hold that whole thing. Otherwise, you're going to hold that trunk nice and still. And I was showing people and I'm sure they looked at me and thought I was nuts because I'd stand real still and just shake my head and go, yeah, if I do that, my head's going to pop off. That's what's going to happen to your tree.
Oh, no.
Is that little top. I mean, if you don't stake it, the whole tree moves and it might come out of the ground. You stand it back up, stake it back up, let it get its roots resettled. But if you only stake that trunk, it's going to sit there and wobble and whip its little head off and just snap up there. And there's other trees that are done like that. So, if you're concerned on that, the best bet is almost, if you can't stake it, if it's starting to get too big, is don't. We had people going for 8-foot poles because they needed to put 2 feet in the ground and have a 6-foot tree. And it's starting to get pretty tough to do that, to truly protect the whole thing of the tree. So, No.
By the way, speaking of trees, these palm trees, it doesn't seem that long ago when the pruning guys were up there, and it looked like they had overdone their job.
Yeah, they did that.
But look how nice they've come back.
They've come back well because they have to. But when you do that real often, it's not beneficial to the tree.
But they look good now, right?
They're not. They don't look too bad. There's one over there that doesn't look happy.
Oh, really?
But yeah, that one that's kind of crooked over there. By
you're right.
I'll call it the Spirit Halloween store now. It's no longer Sears. That one just. I mean, it bloomed, but it just does not look real happy.
Looks broken, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's bent, and probably that's possible from improper pruning. Back a long time ago when that tree was down there. They will shed those fronds, the dead fronds, when they're supposed to. It's, you don't cut off green fronds just because you don't like the way they hang. They're green. They're feeding.
I would leave them alone forever.
Yeah, I mean, once they get too high, you as a homeowner generally can't prune them. You can only get so high with that pruning saw, and then realize, okay, they're, are you going to call the guy at the beginning of hurricane season maybe and have him cut out the dead ones? But I wouldn't have them be cutting out green fronds. Those green fronds are feeding the tree. Nature did not have a bag of fertilizer. With our higher powers design things that we don't need to interfere, and they will grow just fine.
That's right.
We take the dead fronds off because we don't want them to go through the neighbor's window when we have a hurricane.
Yeah, right.
So, okay, June 1st, you get somebody or sometime in that June and July to come up and trim off the brown ones. Don't cut off all the green fronds just because you don't want wind blowing through them. That's feeding the tree. We zap out all the nutrients out of the soil when we scrape everything off, but a properly healthy tree doesn't need a whole lot of extra care. Your big oak trees, okay, thinning some of that canopy only because they're huge trees, probably too close to our homes when we put some of these big trees in, unless they are, say, the live oaks and things like that are weather resistant. But I mean, it's not, just a palm tree like an oak tree. You're not going to run out and cut off all the limbs off your oak tree just because it's time for a hurricane. You don't cut off all the fronds, branches off of a palm tree. It's got to feed itself, and so I think you have a healthier tree in the long run if you just pretty much let nature take its course, and don't over prune. The same thing. Our crepe myrtles are very ornamental trees, very common in this area. Probably overplanted. So if there's ever a disease issue that goes through, it'll probably wipe out all of them.
Oh, no.
But they're not large trees. They have a tendency to sway very easily. So again, because they're smaller trees, though they're not on this list per se of trees that are resistant, because they're smaller, they're usually not damaged real bad by because they're not up there taking the brunt of things. They might be down below a wind block of your home even that can protect them. So don't over prune those in February. All those new shoots that come off on them, those aren't strong. Those are just like little whips, that they are not, they're not a sturdy branch. A healthier tree is going to be one that is not over pruned. And so take care of them that way. Minimalizing your work in the landscape actually can benefit your landscape. You don't have to work so hard. You get to play with maybe your smaller flowers and plants in your pots and things like that, and not have to worry about the big chainsaw and big loppers and things like that, and to keep a healthier landscape. Yeah.
Can I ask a kind of a speculative question?
Sure.
When you have a storm that lasts this long over a place like the Bahamas, does it pick up seeds and bugs and perhaps deposit them on Florida?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If it had to come across, that's how they say that a lot of different things have been imported in, or that some of the problems have come in is actually.
So it might deposit more than water.
Right. Right.
Oh, wow.
And move things around, move seed around and things like that. Sure, that's it can pick it up tornadoes pick up stuff and
It's been over the Bahamas for a while,
Yeah, it
so
has.
it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
got some stuff up there.
Oh, I'm sure it just that it blew it and it just takes and then regular air currents
And just
can
drop it down,
carry
yeah.
can carry things down further. So
Wow, I wonder what the weirdest thing is that we've ever had brought over from. Remember there was that story about the Sahara Desert sand was coming to Florida?
Oh, we've had it.
That's
yeah,
a long way.
And the dust storms that come across, and I think we actually had some of that just a couple months ago. And I wish I would have told those three fellas that were trying. I think they're trying to go to the Halloween store, and of course everything's closed. Like you said, the mall's closed, but I didn't get a chance to go. Hey guys, sorry the mall's closed today.
And you have a phone call?
Yep.
Good morning. You're on the air with Carol Ann.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Carol Ann, Larry. You reminded me of when I was in the Navy and we were in the Mediterranean Sea, and we were closer to Europe than to North Africa, and we got caught in what they call a minstrel. And that's where one of these big storms comes off the North Africa or the desert there. Mm-hmm. And we had every corner on the ship was gathering sand, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, we had more different kinds of little birds that were finding the roost on our ship.
Trying to find a little safe spot to land.
Sanctuary or something.
Right.
Because, you can't roost on the sea.
Right.
But anyway,
place to rest,
it was totally amazing. And we actually had some of them stay on the ship. And then when they left wound up in Europe.
Oh, wow.
I think it was either Spain or Italy.
Sure, wow. Yeah, I'm sure that does happen. Yeah, probably a little more often than we know.
Yeah, but I mean, we were sweeping and shoveling sand off the decks of the ship for
I'm sure.
a good while.
Yeah.
But, it was just mind-boggling when you say, you can't see land, you can't see nothing.
Right.
Radar said we were like 400 or 500 miles off the north coast of Africa.
Right.
And a lot closer to Europe.
Right.
So it just was absolutely mind-boggling. I'm sorry I didn't take any pictures of that.
Sure.
The whole thing was these little birds, and some of them were really beautiful. They were colorful and all about the size of our little chippies and stuff that fly around here.
Yeah. So they needed to take a respite because they were blown off of where their natural course or resting areas or nesting grounds and things like that. Yeah, so your ship became a refuge for all the little birds.
Yep, yeah, it certainly did. It was absolutely
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still, it was, as far as I was concerned, it was a pain in the caboose because everything had sand on it.
Had sand on it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that took some. I'm sure that took some cleaning.
Anyway,
to get out.
I've seen it from my own two eyes how these things can happen.
Mm-hmm.
How
certainly.
animals get transplanted, or mostly birds, I guess.
Right, birds or insects. Right. So.
Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Sonny.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is one of those kind of things that does happen, and I'm sure he's on a naval vessel, but you figure other shipping things or people in pleasure yachts and things like that might be going across from one location to another. You get some winds off of one location, might not even be bothering you, but these poor birds blown off course and things like that, where next thing you know they're roosting on or taking a respite on your boat.
So
what you looking at?
I'm
there,
showing you the this. I guess this is now.
Okay.
So this shows you in the lower east.
Okay.
Of the picture here.
Right.
Well, Carolyn and I are looking at a map of Florida.
Right.
Like a radar map.
And
I know you all probably have this at home, but
has
That we have like an outer band.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So that might be bringing us rain like in a few minutes.
Right.
So
or in the next year, even
Looks
though
like that
even though
stuff is
looking
coming
out
this
here,
way.
we got pretty blue skies and
I know.
and pretty quick moving clouds. So any of the weather can move fast. It's just the storm is sitting there dragging his feet.
Yeah.
Pick up your feet, Dorian, and get moving. Get on out of there.
Yeah.
So that's what we ought to be
I
telling.
share that with you. That looks
Sure.
That looks like maybe the first
And it's
part.
like the only one that's over north central Florida is this this
tiny.
one small band. There's looks like a heavy one that's still out off the coast, but that even looks like it would be over northern Marion County, so the Alachua County kind of area later on. So
there's a
there's
fuller
a bigger
picture.
But so, I mean, we may have some, be careful with the weather. If it starts raining, turn your headlights on, your wipers are on, turn the lights on, slow it down a little bit, especially if it's been hot throughout the day. You get that sudden rain shower. A lot of times
Definitely
you
could
get
have been worse.
oils off the roads will come up to the surface. So, the roads can get slippery, and, we should all know that. Just from natural regular rains in the afternoon in the
Right.
summertime. So, just watch. We got off so far. Knock wood. So far, we've gotten off easy with this one. Just remember what you did when the next possibility of a storm happens. Don't just eat all those. Like I said, everybody was afraid to get into those hurricane snacks because just for the fear that Dorian would hear it. Like the cheese wrapper and a dog and come running. Boom, we got you. You got your snacks out. We want some of that. Hun, the mall is closed today. For the storm, they closed the Paddock Mall up for today. So I know she doesn't believe me. So go try the door. It won't work. Nope, the doors are closed. I walk the parking lot. But I know the mall walkers. I've seen quite a few come and they find out that the doors are closed. And sorry, they shut the mall for the day. But
let's see. Phone lines are open if you want to call
we got a
Caroline.
couple
Got about
minutes left.
7 minutes left. 622-9622. And don't forget, Caroline does have a Facebook page where you can share your photos. And maybe if you are in the eastern part of the county and you want to share
If
maybe
anything-
got video of trees blown or something. That'd be fun to look
maybe
at.
later on today I'll show you the pictures of the storefront on mine of how we button up a garden center. It's buttoned up. Yeah, I got one
Really?
more.
Any tricks that we need?
We took everything in.
Just bring it in.
Strapped our
What if
tables
it's
down.
what if it's a potted plant, like that thing I showed you from Sunken
Which-
Gardens, that big tree that was in a pot?
Yeah,
you couldn't
when
bring
it's-
that inside.
Most of us couldn't, but some places might have, a business may have a hand cart or a forklift that would move large items like that. But what we did, and I probably could post that picture, we took some trees that we had, because not expecting a whole lot for our area, and put them up against our chain link fence and took a chain and chained it down. Just chained them to it. So even if they blow over, they're not going to roll away. Or they're all going to have to blow in a group to fall. But all my other smaller stuff is off the storefront. If you want to buy a plant that was on the storefront, you're going to check on nursery racks till probably either tomorrow afternoon or Thursday morning when we put it all back together.
So I wonder how soon before we have another one we're looking at. This
Who's to say? I know there was, like I said, saw a thing yesterday that said that there had been 4. One of them had no potential over the next 5 days or relatively no potential over the next 5 days for formation. The other 3 did, but one was in the Yucatan Peninsula. So I guess you had heard it was going west, so it may have even just piddled out. The other 2 were off of Africa at Cabo and Cape. What was that? Cape Verdes, I think, was where that area was. So I'd have to bring up a big map to see exactly where it was. But so it is, again, hurricane season's not over. Coming up into that peak of the hurricane season here with the early mid-September temperatures, and the winds are just so to bring, to make caused that tropical formation, not just off of Africa, but out of the Caribbean and into the Gulf just as well. I mean, we've had some, hurricanes in past years that have just poof popped up,
right.
Or tropical storms, poof popped up. 4 days later, it's on shore somewhere, causing some, headaches and some damage. So it is one of those things.
One of the
just
most
pay attention.
damaging storms that I lived through here in Central Florida was 1993, I think. Let me think.
was it?
Wait, 77th.
Got to count through.
Yeah, because that was my stepdaughter's 16th birthday, so it was
okay.
93.
Okay.
Yeah, we went down to Pleasure Island.
Okay.
And it was starting to rain really, really hard.
Okay.
When I came back to Ocala, the airport was torn up by tornadoes.
Wow.
There was a whole house that was gone.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and nobody knew where the family was. And the good news for them is they were out in St. Augustine, had no idea their house was blown away.
Was in danger and blown away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's yeah. Well, I know that the year.
And it wasn't even a hurricane. It was called a no-name storm.
Oh, that was that March.
It was in March.
March 13th storm. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
that's blew away the garden, froze everything, and that storm went right up the East Coast. And they had ice storms, as anybody who's watching the video can probably see me flailing about, which I've been doing all day. Up in the Northeast, they had ice storms. And
from
that same storm that just went up. It was the non-hurricane hurricane. That then caused quite a bit of other devastation elsewhere. Yeah,
I remember.
I remember trying to cover my vegetable garden because I had planted early.
And it came out of nowhere. There was nobody predicting it at all.
No,
just
it
all of a sudden
popped up and boom! It just was. It was there. It was.
Isn't that crazy how some people blame the current president?
It's kind of going really.
Oh, I mean, anytime they always do that.
Hopefully, that's in silliness.
Hopefully they seem serious.
Yeah, but I'm sure others blamed a previous president for other storms.
Oh,
as
I know.
Well. And
I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about any of them.
We had another president when Katrina came through that he was blamed for the dikes in New Orleans not holding.
Right.
So it was So there's it's always why I mean. And then it's people can say power of prayer kept it off the coast here, but you figure the people in the Bahamas were also praying that it would go away.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's please don't that it's not that all of our prayers were answered at once, because if our prayers were answered, it would not have held over the Bahamas, causing devastation, and I believe there's 6 dead already.
Yeah.
That's the count so far.
Yeah, there's some horrible footage from there.
Mall's closed.
All right.
I know we're getting ready. Get ready to go. I got to work today. Hope everybody just again pay attention. I think we can relax. You might want to wait to put the plants back out, just because if they've been under cover, a little more protected. Give them a couple more days and you'll be fine.
In the garden with Carol Ann.
Another one.
A few more seconds left.
That's it.
Hey, be careful out there.
Always.
Thank you for all the great information and just one of the most fun shows we have. Thank you, Carol Ann.
We'll be back next Tuesday. Good Lord willing, the creek don't rise.
Do you have to work today?
I sure do.
Did you sell a lot of plywood over there?
Yeah, I think they did. I was out of mine with. We had generators going out left and right.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Well, hey, everybody's ready for the next one.
Everybody's ready for the next one. That's it.
All right, thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Hurricane Dorian's now forecast to move slowly north today after pounding the Bahamas for a day and a half. Fox meteorologist Janice Dean.
The center of the storm should remain offshore from Florida, but will come close, if not making a possible landfall, over North or South Carolina. Impacts will still be dangerous, if not life-threatening, in terms of storm surge, strong winds, flooding rainfall, with possible tornadoes as well.
At least 5 people have died in the storm in the Bahamas. Hong Kong Governor Carrie Lam denies she's offered to resign, saying she was just talking about how frustrated she was.
An audio recording was leaked in which Lam appeared to suggest she would quit if she could.
I just attempted to explain that as an individual, it was an easy choice to leave.
Lam's administration has faced 3 months of protests, with crowds demanding greater autonomy from China.
Fox's Simon Owen. America's listening to Fox News.
When it comes to your identity and the personal information on your devices, there's no soundtrack to let you know you're in danger. Today's digital world is so connected, it just takes one weak link for criminals to get in. Good thing LifeLock now adds the power of Norton Security. LifeLock uses proprietary technology to detect threats like your personal info for sale on the dark web. And Norton Security helps protect up to 5 devices from ransomware and other online threats. Plus, if you have a problem, our agents will work to fix it. No one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But with LifeLock, we can help alert you to danger. Join now and get 10% off your first year. Go to LifeLock.com and enter promo code NEWS. That's promo code NEWS for 10% off. LifeLock with Norton. More detection, more protection.
Here is your 1-minute news brief. Hurricane Dorian is now dominating the headlines, but most of Florida has been spared the wrath of one of the largest storms of the Atlantic. Marion County is expected to experience tropical force winds in the eastern portion of the county and comparatively mild conditions in the western portion of the county. Coastal residents in harm's way of the storm have already chosen Ocala as a shelter while Dorian passes. All schools in the county have been closed and will serve as shelters. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods and Marion County Commissioner Michelle Stone announced that school buses will not be out on the streets due to the possibility of 35-mile-per-hour plus winds in the eastern portion of the county. Their announcement specified which schools would serve as shelters. Government offices are open today. The Paddock Mall is closed. Sign up for emergency alerts at alertmarion.com, and don't forget to check the WOCA Facebook page at facebook.com/newstalk.woca.
Hurricane warnings are in effect across the region. Tuesday and Tuesday night will feature the outer rain bands from Hurricane Dorian grazing the area and bringing strong gusty winds and some bands of heavy rain to the area that can lead to flooding. The high on Tuesday between 82 and 86. The low Tuesday night 73 to 77. Wednesday remaining mostly cloudy and windy with some showers and a thunderstorm. The high 82 to 86. Sunshine returns Thursday. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Hi, I'm Casey DeSantis. The governor and I are praying for our state. If authorities tell you to evacuate, please take those orders seriously. If you live in a coastal area, plan your evacuation now so you and your family can get out safely. Take essential items, including prescription drugs,